Hello friends! Today we are gonna design a restaurant application where users can order food. This is the homepage. We have an awesome slider here that shows different items every 4 seconds. And here we have the featured products. And it's a horizontal component, so I can scroll right or left. When I hover over it, it's changing the background color. And for images, there is a small animation here. After this component, we will design this offer section that shows a countdown. And after that, we will create a menu page. When I click any category here, this list page shows up. Let's open a single product. It displays the product details, and here we can change the price using these options. And we have a cart page. We can see all the products and checkout details. And finally, there's an orders page that shows the orders after successful payment. And we can keep track of status of orders. And this project is fully responsive. Let's reduce the screen size. Now we have a mobile menu here. Let's check the home page. Category page, product list, single product, and cart page. To create these responsive components, we'll be using React, Next.js framework, and Tailwind CSS. If you don't know Tailwind CSS, don't worry, I'll explain everything step by step. And I will not copy paste any piece of class name, but if you don't know Next.js, I highly recommend you watch my Next.js tutorial. It's an awesome video that will teach you Next.js from scratch. And in the next tutorial, we will create our own backend server and fetch all this data from a database. And we will add a payment method so users can log in and order food. So let me know in the comments which technologies you want to see in the next video. I will read them and start creating the backend tutorial. If you want to see more projects like this, please like the video. If you are ready, let's get started. Okay, let's open up VS Code and install a Next application. I have an empty folder here. I'm gonna open up my terminal. And we are in this folder. I'll write npx create next app. And the latest version of Next.js. I will install everything in this folder. So I will say dot and enter. We will use TypeScript, but even if you don't know TypeScript, don't worry, you will understand everything. It's just the design part and there will be nothing complex. And if you want to learn TypeScript or refresh your memory, you can watch my TypeScript tutorial. It's a really short tutorial and it shows everything you need to know. You can see it in the card on the top right. And let's continue. We will use ESLint. It allows us to find and fix problems quickly. You will understand when we start coding. And we are going to be using Tailwind. We will use source directory, app_router, and the import alias will be the @sign. So we can import files quickly. And let's install our libraries. I will say yarn or npm install. And our application is ready to run. Let's do that. I will say yarn run dev. Or npm run dev. As you can see, it's running on this port number. Let's open up our page. And it's here. Let's get rid of these unnecessary items. I'm going to open up the source folder and we have here our home page. Let me close here. And I'm going to remove everything. And I will just write here hello world. Okay, and let's remove this background. I'm gonna open up the CSS file and remove all these colors. And in the public folder, we have those items. Let's remove them. And I'm gonna drag and drop my images here. We are gonna use all these icons and images. And there's a temporary file here, and it includes the menu items and the products. I said temporary because in the next tutorial, we are gonna fetch all this data from our own database. So we are gonna delete this folder. And you can find all these images in my GitHub repository. If you visit this page, you are gonna see the repository of this project, and you can see all the files and images in this GitHub repository. So let's check our application. This is our home page. We have the menu page, and inside this menu page, we have our categories. And when I click one of them, we will see the product page and the product ID here. We have the cart page, and finally, orders page. So let's create them. Using Next.js, creating pages is really easy. I'll just use the app directory and create my pages. Let's say menu, and I will create my page. Be careful, this name should be page. You cannot give any other name here. Let's create our function, and I will say menu page. Let's see. And it's here. Let's create our subcategories. If you watch my Next.js tutorial, you already know how to do that. I will just write category. Basically, this name can be anything, burgers, pizzas, or whatever. And let's create our page. I will say category page. And let's say burgers. Okay. So let's do the same thing for product. Inside app directory, I will say product. And we will have product IDs. Page.tsx. I will say single product. Let's test product and any product number here. Okay, let's create the cart page, app directory, another page, cart, page.tsx, and the component function, cart page. And finally, orders. Cart and orders. And one more I forgot, it's gonna be the login page. It's empty right now. Let's create login page. Let's refresh and it's here. Okay, that's all. Let's check our app. And if I navigate between our pages, you are gonna realize something. As you can see, this notification, this navbar, and this footer always stays. Basically, we are gonna use them in all our pages. To do that, we can use Next.js Layouts. In the app directory, let's close everything here. As you can see, there's a layout, and this children component is basically our pages. If I add here any additional component, or just say test, you are gonna see that this text is everywhere. So I can create my components and use them in this layout. Let's come here in the source folder. I will say components. And the first component will be notification. like that. We can give any name we want. It doesn't have to be page. It's just a component. I will say Navbar and footer. Okay, let's use them here. I will say notification component here. And this is how we are using our imports. So we don't have to write any dots like that. We are just writing add and it's going to the source folder. Okay. And let's create the others, Navbar. And after the content, I will say footer here. Let's save and see. And as you can see, they are here. Okay. So let's start with the notification. It's the easiest part. There is nothing fancy here. We are just gonna give height, background color, and text color. Let's do that. I'm gonna open up notification. Let's close this sidebar. And let's create our first class name. I will say height. As you can see, there are some default numbers. If I say 4, for example, it means height is 16 pixels. By the way, I'm using Tailwind VS Code extension here. You can install this extension and it's gonna show every option here. If I say background, for example, as you can see, all the colors and other properties are here. Okay, so I will say age 12, 48 pixels. Let's give a background color, BG red 500. Text color will be white. And I'm gonna write here my text. Let's copy and paste. Let's see. Okay, let's open up our console. If you are working with Tailwind, you should use mobile first design. It means you should start giving styles for mobile devices first, and after for tablets, laptops, and big screens. You are gonna understand everything better right now. So what I want to do is giving here a padding from left and right. So I can use this shortcut px, and for basically it gives a padding on the x-axis and it's gonna be 16 pixels. If I say py, it's gonna be on the top and bottom. What else? I'm gonna center my item here. To do that, I will say flags. It means display flags, and align items will be center. So I'm gonna be using item center and justify center. It's gonna center items vertically and it's gonna center items horizontally. Let's see. Okay, if I make my page bigger, as you can see, it's centered vertically and horizontally. And I wanna center my text. I will say text center. Perfect. But the size of this text is too big. So I will say text small and it's gonna be 14 pixels. Like that. And when it comes to medium screen, by the way, why it's not centered? Oops, I removed justify center. Okay. And when it comes to medium screens, its font size will be again bigger. So I will say MD, text will be base. And it means 16 pixels. And let's say cursor pointer. So we can click. And what about this navbar? Let's get back to the mobile screen and let's check our application. I'm gonna open up my console. And as you can see, we have a logo here and this menu button. And when I click here, it opens this menu. So I can create a different component for this menu. Let's do that. I'm gonna open up my sidebar and create here a new component. And it's gonna be menu. We have a menu page and menu component. So I'm gonna create here my image. To do that, we are gonna be using Next.js image. And I will say source. We are gonna be using our icon here. Let's check. this icon. So let's say open.png. I'll say alt, and I should give here any width and height. It's going to be 20. Again, I've explained all these next items in my next tutorial. And I'm going to use this menu in my Navbar component. Let's close them. And open up Navbar. Firstly, we are going to have a logo. Let's say logo. And after, we are going to have a mobile menu. Let's create a div. And inside this div, I'm going to call my menu component. And let's create here our logo, another div. And inside this div, we are going to be using Next.js link. And inside this link, let's give our application name, Massimo. I don't know how to pronounce this. Sorry, my Italian friends. I will just say Massimo. And I have to give this name because, you know, if you have an Italian restaurant, you have to give an Italian name. If you sell a pizza for $10, if you give an Italian name, it's gonna be $15. It's that easy. I'm just joking. Let's see our application. Of course, I didn't save, and there's a problem here because we didn't give any URL. Let's say the home page. Okay, they are here. Right now, I'm gonna give a height for my navbar and a border here. And finally, I will make it flexbox and separate my items. Let's give a class name. Height will be the same, 12. And text color will be red, 500. I'm gonna give a padding and I'm gonna separate my items. Justify will be space between. Of course, I should center my items vertically, align item center. And let's give border bottom. I will come here, let's close this sidebar. And I will say border bottom 2. And I'm gonna give a color for this, border bottom red and 500. And I wanna make this text uppercase. So I will say uppercase. And it means text transform is uppercase, like that. What about this logo? I will say class name. Text will be a little bit bigger. So let's say X large. And when I click on this button, we are gonna see our menu and we are gonna change this icon. To do that, we can use a useState hook that we can store this boolean is open or not. Let's do that. I will say const open, set open. It's gonna be useState hook. And at the beginning, it's gonna be false. And remember, if you are using useState, useEffect, or any other user interaction, your component should be a client component. Otherwise, you cannot create here any HTML event. Remember how we are doing this. I will say use client. And let's create our functionality here. I will create one more image and I'm gonna write my condition. I will say if it's not open, show this image. If it's open, show the close image. And when I click on this image, I'm gonna set my state. It's gonna be true. Let's say on click. Set open, it's gonna be true. And let's do the same thing for other image. When I click here, I'm gonna close my menu, so it's gonna be false. I will click, and as you can see, it's changing. And if it's open, finally, I can show my menu here. After this image, let's create a div, and it's gonna include all our links. What links we have? Homepage, menu, working hours, contact, and others. So let's create them here instead of writing them one by one. I will write only 4 of them because those are special items. Let's create them here. Links. I will map through this array. For each item, I'm gonna return a link, Next.js link. And between them, I'm gonna write its title. Let's say item.title. And I'm gonna write here href item.url. Of course, there's a warning here. ESLint warning, and it says the unique key is missing. If you are using a map, you should give here a unique key, and it's going to be item.id. those IDs. Let's see. Okay, they are here, but I'm gonna make this div position absolute, and I'm gonna set its position is gonna start from here. So we have to calculate this notification and navbar height. I will come here and say class name. Firstly, I will give a background. Remember, we are using 500. Text color will be white. I will say position absolute, and it's gonna start from left 0 and top will be 24. Because remember, its height is 12, and total number is 24. As you can see, it starts from here. But it's too small. In our application, as you can see, it contains all our screen. So I can give here a height, but remember, I have to calculate here. If I say height screen, it means height 100 VH. But if I do that, it's gonna overflow. That because we didn't calculate them yet. To calculate them, I'm gonna use parentheses, and I will say calculate 100 VH minus 6 rem. Inside these brackets, you can use a plain CSS like that. I said 6 rem because age 12 is 3 rem, and our notification is the same. This is why I said 6. Let's see. As you can see, it's not overflowing anymore. Let's center our items. I will use flex, item center, and justify will be center. And I'm gonna increase my text 3x large, this font. But as you can see, they are horizontal because I said flex, but I forgot here flex direction. So I will say flex column, and it means flex direction column. And for each item, I can give space. I'm gonna use gap, and it's gonna be 32 pixels like that. By the way, I didn't give any width here. So before this h, I will say v full. So it's gonna contain all our components like that. And I'm gonna give a z index here. Let's say 10. Because I wanna see this component over all our other components. And let's create other items. This login, card, and this number. I will create another link. It's gonna be login, href, the login page. But again, I'm gonna write here a condition. If we have a user, we are not gonna see this login button anymore. We are gonna visit our orders. But we are in the design part right now. We don't have any user. So I'm gonna create here a temporary user. Let's say const user false. We don't have any user. Let's say temporary. We are gonna delete this. If there is a user, show the login. Sorry, if there is no user, show the login. If there is a user, show orders. As you can see, login page. If it's false, it's gonna be orders. And this card with this icon, I will say another link. And when I click here, it's gonna open up the card page. And let's create our icon and text. But to do that, I wanna use another component. That because in our example, we are gonna use it in this navbar also. But remember, our navbar is a server component. But this is gonna be a client component, that because we are gonna increase and decrease this number. So if I use this directly here, I have to turn my navbar to a client component. I don't wanna do that. So I'm gonna come here and create another component. And let's say cart icon. I'm gonna create my function, and it's gonna be a link, href. It's gonna be cart. Of course, let's import. And inside, I'm gonna create an image and a text. For this image, I'm gonna create a container. Let's say source is gonna be cart PNG and alt. Okay, I did an import. And as you can see, we have to give any height and width. By the way, I forgot here code. And I'm not gonna give any width and height here. Instead, I'm gonna give a size for its parent. So if I say fill, it's gonna fill its parent. In this case, I have to use relative positioning here. So I'm gonna give width and height here. it's 32 pixels. And after this image, I'm gonna create a span and I will say cart and the number. Let's use it in our menu. I will say cart icon. Okay, let's make this display flags and align our items. This is the parent. I will say class name. It's gonna be flags, item center, and gap between items will be 4. Like that. Right now, when I click those items, I'm gonna close my menu component. So I'm gonna choose my link here and I will say on click event, when I click here, it's gonna set the open state and it's gonna be false. Of course, I should do the same thing for login, orders, and discard. If I click, oops, it's still here. Of course, I didn't create any condition here. I will say show this component if it's only open. Okay, I will click, it's open. If I click any item here, it's gonna be closed. Okay, awesome. So what about the medium screen? As you can see, it's still the same. But for the large screen, we are adding our items here. Some of our links are here, logo, and other links. Let's do that. I can close this menu, and inside Navbar, before this logo, I'm gonna create another div. And for the small screen, it's gonna be hidden. It means display none. For medium screen, it's gonna be the same, but after medium screen, it's gonna be display flags and gap between items will be 4. Let's create our links here. It's gonna be homepage, menu, and contact. Of course, we don't have any contact page, but we can write it. And for this menu, I will do exactly the same thing. I will say class name and after MD, make it hidden. As you can see, after MD, we don't see this button anymore. Instead, we have our links. Let's create our other links. It's gonna be the similar. After this mobile menu, I will say right links. Let's do the same thing for here actually. It's gonna be left links. And again, I'm gonna create here a user, const user, false, login page and order page. And I'm gonna write here my condition. If there is no user, show the login page, this login link. If it's not, show the orders. And finally, I can call here my cart icon like that. And there should be a phone number here. I will create a div and it's gonna have an image, phone.png. And after we are gonna have a span and we can write here any phone number. Let's import the image. Okay, I didn't give any size. Let's say 20. Like that. Let's give a style for them. I will say item center and let's do the same thing for this div. I will say flags, item center, and gap between this icon and text will be 2. And I will say cursor pointer. Of course, we don't have any background. Let's give. I will say orange 300. And I'm gonna give padding on the x-axis like that. And I can give here border radius. To do that, we are gonna be using rounded. As you can see, we can give any size here, 8 pixels. For MD, it's 6 pixels. Perfect. For this cart icon, as you can see, it's too big. Let's open up cart icon. And I will say, if it's MD, width and height will be 5. Okay, And I can increase this height for the big screen. Let's open up Navbar, and I will say if it's empty, height will be 24. And this item, I can make it bold. I will say if it's empty, font will be bold. But there is something wrong here. In our application, as you can see, our logo is centered. But here, it's not on the center. That's because we didn't give any certain width for our items. Those links are smaller and these links are a little bit bigger. This is why our logo is on the left side. To prevent this, all items will have exactly the same size. For the left side, I will say flex 1, for logo, flex 1, and for right links. This is our logo container. If I align my tags to center, it's going to be centered. Let's say for MD, text align will be center. Like that. But in this case, it looks a little bit weird because this div is too big. In our example, as you can see, it's here. So I will come here and say for MD screen, it's going to be position absolute. Top will be 3, right will be 2, and if it's the large screen, it's going to be static again. And I'm going to show all these links on the right side, so I can come here and say justify content and. Right now our item's on the right side, and this item is here. But if I make my screen bigger, as you can see, it's here. Perfect. Let's see. Okay, but I forgot something. As you can see, there is a padding here. I'm gonna come here for the parent. I will say if it's LG, padding X will be 20, and if it's even bigger, it's gonna be 40. For LG screens, it's gonna be 80 pixels, and for X large screens, sorry, there is a typo, it's gonna be 160. Like that. So let's take care of our footer. Let's see. As you can see, there is nothing fancy, just this logo and this text. I'm gonna copy this. Again, I'm gonna give same padding. Let's open up footer. It's gonna be a link, the app name, and a p tag. It's gonna be our homepage. And let's give our class name. Again, exactly the same height. And if it's MD, it's going to be 24, 12, and 24. And padding will be 4 at the beginning. If it's LG, it's going to be 20. And if it's X large, it's going to be 40. Let's give text color red 500. And again, I will say flexbox, align item center, and justify will be space between. Just like this. And for this item, I'm gonna make my text font bold, and the text will be X large. Like that. Okay, we finished our layout, so let's take care of our homepage. In the homepage, we have different components, this slider, those items, and this countdown. Let's create them. I will say slider, featured items, and let's say offer. I'm gonna open up my homepage and I'm gonna add them here. Slider, featured items, and offer. I can remove this image. We are not using any image here. So let's create our slider first. I'm gonna shrink here. Let's close this menu. And as you can see, it's vertical. So I'm gonna be using display flags, but flags direction will be column. this item and this item have exactly the same size, and after the medium screen, it's still vertical. And for large screen, it's going to be flex direction row. And we are just going to change this text size. Let's do that. I'm going to close everything here, my sidebar, and open up slider. Let's give a class name here. And inside, we are going to have two items. I will say text container and image container. Inside this text container, we are going to have an h1 tag. That's right here. Test, we are going to change it later, and a button. I will say order now. And here, I can create my image, source and alt. Let's import this image. And for now, I will just say slide.png. Let's check, I'm not sure. Okay, slide 1. We have 3 slides. We are gonna use all of them, but for now, I'm just giving this image and this text. Let's see. Of course, we don't have any size for the image. Firstly, I'm gonna shrink my page. It's gonna be a mobile device. And as I said, it's gonna be display flags. Flags direction will be column. And for each container, I can either use flags1, or if you want to, you can give height. And let's do that. I will say 1 divided by 2, and it means 50%. If I do the same thing here, 50% of the screen will be text container, and the other half will be image container. Of course, to do that, I should give here a height, and let's say screen for now. Of course, I should give here relative and fill. We have height, but we don't have width. So let's say full. And let's see. Okay, there is something wrong. There is no dot, of course. And perfect. But as you can see, it's overflowing because we didn't calculate these items. Remember, 3 rems, 3 rems. So I should calculate it. Instead of full screen, I'm gonna say calculate 100 VH minus 6 rem. Okay, right now it fits the screen. I can give object cover for this image. Let's say class name. Object will be cover. Right now it looks much better, but remember, for the medium screen, this size is twice bigger, so I have to calculate it also. So I'm gonna copy this and I will say if it's empty, h will be minus 9. Like that. Okay. So what about this text? I'm gonna center everything. I will say flex, item center, justify center, and the flex direction will be column, and gap between this text and the button will be 8. Let's give text color red 500, and font will be bold. Like that. Of course, I'm gonna increase font size, it's too small. For this h1 tag, I will say text 5x large. I'm gonna center the text. It's gonna be uppercase. Padding will be 4. And for this button, let's give some background color. And it's gonna be red again. In this case, I'm gonna change text color. It's gonna be white. Right now, I can give a padding here. From top and bottom, it's gonna be 4. Left and right, it's gonna be 8. Okay. When it's bigger, I'm gonna increase more. Let's come here, h1 tag. I will say if it's empty, text will be 6x large. And for x large, it's gonna be 7. Okay, so let's create our items. As I said, we are going to have 3 items. Let's copy and paste our data here. As you can see, each item has a title and image. Right now, using this array, I can show different slides. At the beginning, we are going to show the first slide, and after 4 seconds, it's going to turn to slide 2, and after 4 seconds, it's going to be slide 3. To do that, I'm going to be using useStateHook. Const current slide is going to hold the slide index, set current slide. I will say useStateHook, and at the beginning 0, because we are using an array and the index number of the first item is 0, 1, and 2. Of course, if you are using useState, it should be a client-side component. So I will say useClient. And let's show our title. So I will say data and current slide and its title. And for this image, I will do the same thing. Data, current slide, and its image. As you can see, it's the first item. If I change here, it's going to be second and third. But how we are going to change them in every 4 seconds? To do that, we are going to be using useEffect hook. Dependency array will be empty. It's going to run only once. And I'm going to create here an interval. I will say set interval. It allows us to create any function in desired time. You will understand better right now. I'm going to write here a function, and it's going to run in every, let's say, 2 seconds. It means 2000 milliseconds. So if I say set current slide, I'm going to take the previous value and I'm going to increase it. And finally, I should clean up this interval. Otherwise, it's going to cause memory leaking. I will say return cleanup function and clear interval, my interval name. Okay, if you don't know how to use cleanup functions or generally useEffect, you can watch my useEffect video. And if you don't know why we are using previous here instead of this current slide directly, you can watch my useState video. Okay, let's make this 0 and let's see what's going on. I will refresh the page. First image. Okay, it's not changing. Oh, why I created this function twice? Let's remove here. Okay, set interval, our function, and the time period, and after we are cleaning. Let's see. As you can see, it's changing in every 2 seconds. But there's a problem here. After number 2, it tries to increase this number, but we have only 3 items. To prevent this, I'm going to write here a condition. Let's copy this. And I will say, if the previous value equals data.length -1, I'm saying -1 because its length is 3, but the maximum index is 2. So it's going to be basically 2. And if it's 2, it's going to turn back to the initial slide. If it's not, we are going to increase our previous value. Let's try. I will refresh. First, second, third, and first. It's a loop. Perfect. And what else I can do? I can increase this padding for the small screen, large screen. I will come here and I will say, if it's empty, P will be 10. Okay, perfect. Right now, I'm gonna stop this animation because I want you to focus on other stylings. For example, for large screen, it's gonna be horizontal. Let's do that. I'm gonna come here and I will say, if it's LG, flex will be row. like that. But in this case, their heights are still 50%. Let's fix this. I will say if it's large, height will be full. I will do the same thing here. And perfect. But right now the image is smaller than this text. It should be equal. So I will say LG with 50% and here. Like this. Or actually, instead of changing those sizes, you can directly give flags, as I said. What I mean by that, I can delete those, and I can say flags 1. It's exactly the same thing. If it's horizontal, the height will be 100% and width will be 50%, and if it's vertical, the height will be 50% and the width will be 100%. It's that easy. This is why I like using Flexbox. When it comes to responsive design, we don't have to change any size. Okay, let's see. As you can see, there is a color here, background color. Let's give it here. I will say background, fuchsia and 50. Okay. So what else? Let's take care of featured products. Let's see. As you can see, it has a specific height. It's horizontal and we can scroll our items here. Basically, we are going to have a container and its width will be this screen width. And inside this container, we are going to create a wrapper and it's going to contain those products. Let's do that. I will close here and open up my component. This is our container. Inside another div, let's say wrapper. And inside this wrapper, we are going to have single items. And inside single item, we will have 2 sections, this image container and image inside, and text container and those texts and this button. So let's say image container and text container. Inside we are going to have an image. I will say fill. In this case, its parent will be relative. And inside this text container, let's create. I will give a class name. And let's see. H1 tag, a P tag, and price span, and a button. Let's say title, description, price, and button. Add to cart. Okay, right now I will say width is screen. It's going to contain all our screen. But if it's overflowing, we will be able to scroll. So I will say X and scroll. So we can scroll on the X axis. And text color will be red, 500. And for this wrapper, its width will be the maximum item size. So I will say width max. It's going to be maximum content. And it will be horizontal. It's going to be Flexbox. And for the single item, for mobile devices, let's check. As you can see, there is only one item. It means its width is 100%. So I will say width screen and let's give a specific height and it's going to be 60 VH. You can give here any number you want, but I prefer using 60 VH. You can make it smaller, bigger, it's up to you. And again, I will use Flexbox. Direction will be column. And I'm going to center them horizontally. Let's say Flexbox, flex column, and items will be center. And justify, let's say space around, because I want to give some space here from top and bottom. Let's see. Let me make this smaller screen. And we don't have any image yet. Let's give, I will use temporary product1. Of course, we should give here any size. Again, I can use flex1 and here flex1. And I will say width is full. I can give object width here. Object cover, but it's cutting our image. So instead of cover, I can use contain. Perfect. And I can give some margin for this container, the parent container. So I will say 4. Okay. What about those items? For the container, again, I'm going to be using flexbox. I will say flex column, and gap between items will be 4. There is a typo. Let's fix it like that. And for the title, let's increase its size. Text will be X large, font will be bold, and I will say uppercase. Perfect. And for this button, I will say class name. I will give background color red, text color white. I will give some padding, and it's gonna be rounded. Let's say empty, like this. And for this price, again, text will be X large and font will be bold. Let's give here a $sign. And right now we can use our other items. Of course, in the next tutorial, we are gonna fetch them from the database. But for now, I'm gonna create here a data in the source folder. I will say data.tx, and I'm gonna paste here my products. As you can see, each product has an ID, title, description, image, and a price. And we have some options here that we are going to use in the single page. But for now, just ignore it. I will save. And I'm going to use these featured products. And this is our single product type. As you can see, it has to be an ID, number, title, string. It can be a description, but it's not required, like image. We are going to have a price. It should be a number, and our options. This is a single product, but the products type will be product array. So we can add here multiple products. So let's use it. I'm going to come here and grab this single product, and I'm going to use my featured products. I'm going to map through this array, and for each item, we are going to return this div. Like that. Let's move this here. And there's a warning that because we are not using any key, let's write it here. Unique key will be item.id. Of course, I should import this. And let's change this image. Item. As you can see, our options are here. It's going to be image. But as I said, image is not required. So it can be null. So I'm going to write here a condition. I will say if item.image exists. Okay. For this title, item.title, description, and price. Okay. Let's check. As you can see, we have some additional padding here, and also our texts are centered. Let's do that. I will come here and say class name p4. Let's close this sidebar. Let's center them. I will say item center. Perfect. And I can center text. As you can see, it's aligned to left. I will say text align center. Okay, awesome. Let's check our example. And when I hover over, as you can see, it changes its background color. And when I hover over this image, there is a simple animation. Let's do that. Firstly, I'm going to change this background. I'm gonna come here for this parent. I'm gonna write here hover, and I'm gonna change my background. And I'm gonna give a transition for all animations. It's gonna take 300 milliseconds. Let's try. It's already this color. Of course, there is no space here. I will hover. As you can see, it's changing. So what about here? When I hover over, I'm gonna rotate my item. So let's come here. For the image container, I will say hover effect, rotate, and there are some custom numbers. If I say 3, it's gonna be only 3 degrees. So I can write here my custom number, and it's gonna be 60 degrees. And again, I'm gonna give a duration, transition all, and duration will be 500. Let's see. Perfect. And our other items are here. So what about medium screens? Let's check. As you can see, there are 2 items. So I'm gonna come here, single item. If you remember, its width is 100 VW. Let's change it. I will say if it's empty, it's gonna be 50 VW. In this case, we can see 2 items. And for X large, we will see 3 items. For X large, width will be 32 VW. Like that. But in this case, this height is really low. Let's increase. X large height will be 90 VH. It's almost full screen. Like that. Let's increase those sizes. For H1 tag, I'm gonna come here and say for X large screen, text will be 2X large. And if it's even bigger, 2X large screens, text will be 3X large. Smaller, bigger. And I can give more padding here. Let's close this console and see better. I will come here and say 2X large, P will be 8. And much better right now. Let's check our app. And as you can see, there is a space here, but we don't have. And this is the worst part of Tailwind. As you can see, I don't know where is the mistake. All class names are too long. Let's check our container. Background color. Let's give any color here. Okay, items are not centered. I will just say justify center. As you can see, it's much better. Let's remove this. And perfect. Let's check. Okay, it's exactly the same. And let's take care of this item. I'm gonna close here and open up offer. Again, we are gonna have 2 items. Let's first give here a class name and 2 items. First one will be text container. And the second one will be image container. Let's give here quickly relative and our image, next image, and source will be offer product PNG. And I will say fill. And I will do exactly the same thing. 2 items, display flags. When it comes to small screen, it's gonna be vertical. And after medium screen, it's gonna be horizontal. Firstly, I'm gonna give background color, it's gonna be black. Height will be screen, or if you want to, as we always do, you can calculate those items. But I will make this 100 VH. It's gonna be bigger. I will say flags column, and for MD screen, I mean after MD screen, flags will be row. And again, flags 1, and width will be full, so we can see our image. By the way, let's give object and contain, like that. What about this text? A title, p tag, this counter, and this button. I will say h1, class name, p tag, class name, and a button. Order now. Let's copy them. Like this. And let's see. As you can see, they are not visible. Let's change our text color. For h1 and p tag, I will say text white. Of course, h1 tag will be bigger. Text 5x large. Font will be bold. And if the screen is larger, text will be 6x large. Okay, let's center those items. In the text container, I'm going to be using flexbox. Flex direction will be column. Justify will be center. And the text. Perfect. And gap between each item will be 8. It's going to be 2 rem. And I'm going to give a padding here, and it's going to be 6. Okay. For large screen, this size is too small. Let's increase. I will say if it's X large, text will be X large. Let's take care of this button quickly. We have done this before. You know what we are going to do. I'm going to give background, text color, and rounded. Padding from top and bottom will be 3. Left and right will be 6. Okay. And what about this counter? Of course, we can do this using JavaScript, but we don't have to waste time. We can directly use a library. Let's open up our terminal, a new terminal here, and I will say yarn add react countdown. But if we use this library, we have to turn our component into client-side component, but I don't want to do that. Remember what we are doing? When we don't want to turn our component into client-side component, basically we are creating a new component here, countdown, and only this small component will be client-side. So all component is server-side, and I can add here any client-side component, countdown. Okay. So let's use our library. I will say countdown. This is our library, and I'm going to give a date property, and you can give here any ending time. Let's create here. I will say const ending date. I will say new date. Let's write here 25 July, and let's use it here. Let's see. Okay, it's black, but it's here, as you can see. Right now, I'm going to change its color, and font will be bold. Text will be 5x large. And I will say text yellow, and let's choose 300. Perfect. Let's check here. Okay. And when it's bigger, I can increase this image size. As you can see, it's bigger. And also there's a background image here. I forgot that. Let's close here. I will say if it's empty, H will be full. And for this parent, we are using flex row. I will separate items using justify content. And also I'm gonna give a background image. I will say bg. And here, URL, and it's inside my public folder, offer bg.png. Okay, as you can see, its size is too big. If it's empty, h will be 70 VH. It's gonna be smaller. Like that. Okay, it looks perfect. Let's check each screen size. Okay, awesome. So we finished our home page. Let's take care of this menu page. Let's check. As you can see, we have 3 items. In the next project, we will take them from our database. But for now, again, we are going to be using the data file. And let's shrink this. As you can see, we have background images. And this menu represents the Italian flag. And for the small screens, it's gonna be vertical. I think you can predict what we are gonna do. Flex direction column, and when it's medium, flex direction row. It's exactly the same thing. So let's open up our page. By the way, there is a padding here. When I make this bigger, as you can see, it's increasing. If you remember, we gave here some padding, so we can use exactly the same padding here. Let's open up our menu. Before, I'm gonna close here. Menu page. Let's open up Navbar. And remember, P4. But when it comes to LG screen and X large screen, it's gonna be bigger. So I will say P4 and others. It's gonna be full screen. I mean, I'm gonna calculate my notification and navbar. 100 VH minus 6 RAM. If the screen size is bigger, it's gonna be 9 RAM. Okay. Let's give here flex quickly and direction. And if it's empty screen, flex will be row. And I'm gonna center my items. Let's create. As I said, we are gonna be using a data. Let's open up data and paste our items. As you can see, menu is an array, and in this array, we are gonna have some objects, and those objects have ID, number, slug, which means the category name, like burgers, title, description, image, and color. We are using this color because, as you can see, these 2 items are white, and this one is black. White and black. Okay, let's use this menu. I'm gonna save here, and I'm gonna map through this menu. For each category, I'm gonna return a link. href. Remember, we have slug, category.slug. Let's import this. And let's give our unique key, item.id. Sorry, not item, category. And inside this link, I'm gonna create a text container and it's going to be on the left side of the container. I'm doing this because we are using those images. And for here, again, our image and the text. So let's create this text container. And inside we are going to have an h1 tag, which is category title, a p tag, category description, and a button here. And I will say explore. Let's give our background image here. This is the main container. You can give it in Tailwind, and also let me show you how to use inner style. If you are using dynamic data, you can also use the inner style. So I will say background image. URL will be category.image. Let's check. Okay, they are here. Let's make this smaller. Okay, and let's give height. We have 3 items, so I can give 33%. So I will say with full, height 1.3, and background image will be cover, so we can see our items like that. I can give some padding inside. Perfect. Let's give style for our texts. But remember, we have some colors. You can use inner style, but also you can use it here. I will say text, and I'm gonna write here my item color, category.color, and width will be half of the screen. Let's increase those sizes. Firstly, I will say uppercase, font bold, bold, and text will be 3x large. And for the p tag, for the description, I can decrease the font size. Text will be small, and I will give margin Y between title and this button. And finally, let's take care of those buttons. Again, I'm gonna be using color, and also I will say for the small screens, it's gonna be hidden, and we will see it only the screen is 2x large. Otherwise, it's gonna overflow. Our containers are too small for that button. If you want to, you can decrease this font size and show it here, but I prefer using it on the big size, because anyway, when we click here, it's gonna show the category page. Let's actually add it here, href. Okay, it's already here, but I forgot here adding menu. It should be like this. Okay, perfect. And for the medium screen, as you can see, height is too low. I will come here and say after medium screen, H will be 50%. Okay, much better. And after that, I'm gonna close my console here, and we can see our buttons. Right now I can give background color. So I will say bg category.color, and the text color will be red, and I'm gonna give some padding. Let's say from top and bottom, left and right, and it's gonna be rounded. But as you can see, this black one looks a little bit weird. It's like 2005's hacker forms. I don't want to use this color, so basically I will change this red. So I need to write here a condition. Let's delete here and write a condition. I will say if category color equals black, make it white. If it's not, make it red. Of course, red 500. And perfect. It looks much better right now. When I click here, it's gonna open up the category page. Let's see. As you can see, we have a container that includes those products. For the small screen, it's gonna be 1 product, medium 2 products, and large 3 products. Let's open up console and see the small size. So let's open up our page. I will close here and open up category page. I will say flex and text color will be red. And again, I will open my data and let's create here our products. We are going to be using only pizza list. Let's take this type here. Okay. And remember, we have a products type, which includes those items. So let's use them. I will copy this and paste here. I will say map. Let's import. For each item, I'm going to be using a link, Next.js link, and I will say href, and it's going to be product page and the product ID here, which is item.id, and a unique key. And inside this link, we have an image container and text. And I will say if there is an image, I have to do this because remember, it's not required. So I will say image, next image, and the source will be item.image. Of course, I forgot container here. Let's create. I'm gonna wrap this image like that. And as always, I will say fill, class name, relative. Before giving any size here, let's check our example. As you can see, its size is a specific size. Let's give it to our parent, this link item. Oops, we already have here. I will say width full, but h will be, let's say 60 VH. I'm gonna give border right because let's check. As you can see, we have a border, but I'm not gonna directly give a border because we already have for this navbar. If we give one more time, it's gonna be really thick. I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna give it to bottom and right. Border right 2, border bottom 2, and border will be red 500. But there is something wrong. Oh, I said 600, it's gonna be 60 of course. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, they are horizontal, but I said width full here. If you want to, you can come here and say flex column, and for medium screen, flex row. But I want to show you one more thing here. If I say flex wrap, as you can see, there is only one item, but for the medium screen, I'm gonna decrease this item size. Let's do it and see what's gonna happen. I will say if it's medium, width will be 1.5. Like that. Actually, this is too big. I can make it after small screen. This is the small. After small, it's gonna be 2 items. After large, it's gonna be 3 items. LG 3. Like that. And as you can see, we don't have to change our flex direction. So let's give a height for our image container. I will say height 80%. Okay, and our text will be in only this 20%, but let's give object width for our images. I will say class name, object, and contain. Okay, and I can give a padding here, by the way, for this parent. Let's say 4. And what about our items, text items? We will have this title, this price, but when I hover over, we are gonna remove that price and add this button. Inside text container, I will say h1 tag, item.title, h2 tag, item.price, and a $sign here. And a button, I will say add to cart. Let's give class name quickly here. Uppercase, background will be red, Text color will be white, padding, and finally rounded. Okay, let's make this horizontal. I will say flex, align item center, and justify content space between. Okay, I will increase font weight. Font will be bold. But our flex box should be somewhere here, not on the middle. To do that, for the parent, I can say flex, flex column, and space between. Like that. And for this title, text will be 2x large and uppercase, and I'm gonna give some padding. So let's create this hover effect. At the beginning, we are not gonna see this button, so I will say hidden. And when I hover over this group, these all items, I'm gonna change its visibility. And there's an awesome feature in Tailwind. It's my favorite feature. I can write here a group. So using this group, we can give hover effect to our childs. I will say group hover effect. And when I hover over this parent, it's gonna affect our child, and its visibility will be block, display block. Let's see, I will hover over. Oh, I gave this group effect here. It should be the main parent. I will remove this, and it's gonna be this parent. Like that. Perfect. So I can do the same thing here. When I hover, I'm gonna remove this price. Let's come here and say class name, group hover. It's gonna be hidden. Like that. Let's increase this size, by the way. Text X large. Let's make our screen bigger. As you can see, it looks awesome. And there is one more thing here. As you can see, for this second item, fourth item, and sixth item, there's a background color. Basically, for even numbers, we are using different colors. So let's come here. This is our parent. And I will say, if it's even, I'm gonna change the background color. As you can see, even numbers are different. If I say odd, it's gonna be 1, 3, and 5. This is another awesome feature of Tailwind. As you can see, it basically says and child and the odd number and change the background color. It's that easy. And what else? When I click here, it's gonna open up the product page. Again, 2 items. First vertical, then horizontal. Let's do that. Single product page. As you can see, there's a padding here. Let's close here and open up product page. I will say class name, padding will be 4. And remember what we are doing. If it's LG, it's gonna be 20. If it's X large, it's gonna be 40. And I will say H will be screen. It's gonna be flexbox. Direction will be column. And I will say justify around. And finally, text color is gonna be red. And when it comes to medium screen, flex will be row. And let's create our containers, image and text container. Let's remove here. Image container, text container, and let's create here quickly. Image. I will give object fit, and I will say fill. Okay, again we are going to be using our data. And after these pizzas, let's create here a single product. As you can see, its type is product, which we have defined here at the beginning. It has all these properties. Let's use them. For this image, for example, I will say single product dot image. And remember what we should do if there is an image. And for this text container, h1 tag single product dot title, a p tag, description, and here we are gonna have, let me make this bigger, we have price, but when it comes to those options, as you can see, when I click them, our price is changing, and also I can increase or decrease this number. Basically, we have an user interaction here. Remember what we are doing? We are creating another component, which is a client-side component. So this container will be a different component. Let's create. I will say price.tsx, not cx. I'm gonna create my function. Thank you, VS Code. I don't need anything. And here we are gonna have h2 tag, which shows our price, but we are gonna take that price from the parent component. We are gonna pass it here. That's right, price component, and I'm gonna pass here the price, single product dot price, and also I'm gonna pass its ID, single product dot ID, and finally, by the way, there is no comma here, and I'm gonna send its options. I'll say options product dot options. Why we need them? Because we are gonna use this price here. We are gonna use those options here, and we are gonna use the ID here. When we click here, we are gonna add it to our cart using its ID. Okay, as you can see, there is a warning because we didn't create any type. Let's come here and create our type here. I will say props. Price is going to be a number. ID, again, number. And options, let's open up our data and see. As you can see, options are not required, but if we have any option, it's going to include a title and additional price. I'm going to copy here and paste. And let's write our props here. Price, ID, and options. It comes from the props. Let's check. As you can see, there is no warning anymore. Let's close this data and write our price here. Let's check. As you can see, it's here. By the way, I want to show two numbers after this dot. So I can say to fixed is going to be 2. Like this. Let's create our options. I will say options container. And we are going to have one more container, and it's going to be quantity container. Quantity and add button. Okay, let's see what we have. As you can see, we are going to take all these options, and for each option, we are going to create a button. Let's do that. I'll say options.map for each option. Create here a button, and the key will be option title. And let's write here option title also. Like that, small, medium, and large. We are gonna give a style, but before, let's handle this button. We are gonna have a quantity div, and it includes 2 sections and 4 items. First section will be this span. Let's write it quickly. And the second section will be those items. This button, this number, and another button. Let's say button is gonna be decrease button. We can write it like that. Another button that we can increase number, and between them a span, let's say 1 for now. And finally, let's say quantity here. And after this, cart button. And I will say add to cart. Okay, right now we can give our style. Firstly, let's take care of our image. Let me shrink this console. Okay, you already know how to do that. I can close this price. Actually, it can stay. Let's open up our page and close this sidebar. And I will say width full. Age will be 1.5. In this case, it's gonna be the other half. Let's see right now. Okay, our image is here, and for this container, I can give space between each item. To do that, I'm gonna make this flexbox, flex direction column. Gap between items will be 4, and for the h1 tag, text will be 3x large, font will be bold, and I will say uppercase, like that. Of course, text should be red. I didn't give here. I said red. It's gonna be only one red. Let's save and see. Okay, perfect. And what about this price component? Let's open up. I will give class name. It's gonna be flex column, gap between items. Okay. And this price will be bigger and bold. h2 tag, class name, text 2x large, and font bold. Okay. And for those items, let's separate them. Options container, I will say flex and gap. And for each button, let's give border. Firstly, I'm gonna give a padding. And to give a border, you can use Tailwind ring. It means just box shadow. You can directly give a border, but I just wanted to show you how you can use ring. And ring color will be red, let's say 400, like that. And I can give border radius, rounded, MD. So what about here? Again, I'm gonna be using flexbox. Let's separate them, justify space between. I will say align item center. Let's give our red background quickly so we can see better. Firstly, I will say uppercase, BG red 500, text should be white. I'm gonna give some padding, and again, box shadow will be 1, and ring color will be 500. Okay, for this quantity, again, flexbox, and I will separate them. So I will come here and again, flex, justify between. As you can see, we are using same thing again and again. This is why you should learn and master flexbox. Once you learn it, flexbox and grid system, everything is much easier. But as you can see, they are not separated because our div ends somewhere here. It should be full screen. So let's say v full, like that. But I'm gonna give some padding, and let's give a ring. But as you can see, this text is going to other line. Let's give here a specific width, 56, like this. But as you can see, it's small. Let's make this 3. And for those items, they are too close each other. Let's give quickly gap. Okay, and let's center them. And perfect. Okay, right now I'm gonna create this functionality. I will refresh the page And as you can see, by default, this first item is selected. But when I click here, it's changing this price, also its background color. Basically, we are gonna need our option index. And we are gonna need another state that we can hold the price, total price. And one more state is gonna hold this quantity. Let's create our use states. Of course, it's gonna be use client. And I'm gonna create here my use states. First one will be our total price. This is our base price, but according to quantity and options, we are gonna change it. It's gonna be total. So let's say use state. At the beginning, it's gonna be the price. Two more quantity. At the beginning, it's gonna be 1. And the selected item at the beginning is going to be the first item, which is index 0. Let's change this. Where is our price here? It's going to be total. I'm going to use this quantity here. And let's come here and give an inner style. I'm not using it here because it's going to be a little bit long. I will say background. If selected is our index number, by the way, I should take our index. Let's open up our data and see. We have this product. As you can see, it's an array, and the first index is the first option. Basically, it's going to be index 0. And if the selected number is 0, it's going to be different background color. If it's index, it's gonna be this red color. Actually, let's hover over and take this color. If it's not, it's gonna be just white. So I can do the same thing for text color. I will say if selected equals our index, it's gonna be white. If it's not, it's gonna be red. Let's see. I'm gonna open my application, and as you can see, this is red. By the way, I can give a minimum width because they don't have the same size and it looks a little bit strange. So I will come here and say minimum width, and I'm gonna give here a specific width, and it's gonna be 6 rem. Okay, much better. And when I click here, I'm gonna change my index. That's right here on click event. I will say set selected. It's going to be our index number. If I click here, as you can see, index number 1, index number 2. Perfect. And let's change here also. When I click here, we are going to increase our number, but there is something important. The minimum size should be 1. So if here is 1, I'm not supposed to decrease this number anymore. It's going to stay as 1. So let's come here. Right, and on click event, set quantity, and we are going to take the previous value and write here a condition. For this one, I will say if previous is bigger than 1, we can decrease this number, -1. If it's not, it's going to stay as 1. We cannot change it anymore. And I can do the same thing here. For example, let's say our limit is 9. If it's smaller than 9, we can increase this number, previous +1. If it's not, it's gonna stay as 9. We cannot change anymore. Let's try. I will click. As you can see, it's not changing, but I can increase until 9. Perfect. Right now, using our selected option and this quantity, I'm gonna change this number. To do that, we can use useEffect hook. And when quantity and selected changes, we are going to set our total number. Set total number, and I will say quantity multiply by, and I'm going to write here a condition because remember, options are not required here. I'll say if options are exist, it's gonna be price plus options and selected, and it's additional price. And if it's not, it's gonna be just price. In this case, we should add here two more dependency, options and price. But don't worry about them because they are not changing at all. And also don't worry about useEffect because it's just this component. It's not refreshing our application or our old component here. It's just a small piece of component. I'm saying this because I know some people are somehow obsessed about useEffect. For this kind of small components, it's no big deal. Okay, let's try. I will click here. As you can see, we add here $4 more and here. But if I click here, it's gonna turn back. And we can use here. Perfect. So what about medium screen? As you can see, it's not centered and there is no space here. So I'm gonna come here and I will say for MD, gap will be 8 and align items will be center. And I'm gonna change its size. It was the half screen, but this time it's gonna be, let's say 70% for MD. So I can do the same thing here. Okay, they are not centered. And I will say justify content center. And I'm gonna increase the gap. It's gonna be 6. And if it's bigger, it's gonna be 8. Like that. Okay, it looks awesome. Maybe I can increase this H1 tag. If it's X large, text will be, let's say 4 or 5. Okay. Let's check one more time. What about this cart component, this cart page? Let's open up. Again, two items, our products and those texts and button. And here there is something different. We are gonna give different sizes. As you can see, this is much bigger than this side. And when it comes to 2x large, let me close here. As you can see, this time they are sharing this screen, 1 unit, 1 unit. Let's do that. I'm gonna take this back. And I'm not gonna give here padding directly because we are gonna be using this background. Let's close everything. I will search for cart. Let's give class name and create my items. First one will be product container. And the second one will be payment container. Let's create divs. Like that. And inside products container, we will have a single item container. Let's see what we have. We have an image, its title and option, its price, and a button here that we can remove. So I will create an image. Let's add here an image for now. p1.png. After, I'm gonna create here another container which includes our title, pizza, and a span, and it's gonna be the option large. And after this, I will say h2 tag, and it's gonna be our price. Let's say 79.90, and finally another span is gonna be the remove button. And here we will have 3 items. After that we are gonna have HR tag, another item, and finally a button. I'll say div is gonna have 2 spans. First one and the second one. I'm not gonna duplicate this because we don't have our class name yet. It can stay like that for now. And I'm gonna write here HR tag. And after another item, but again, I'm not writing, we don't have class names. Instead, I'm just gonna create my button. Checkout. It's our regular button. I'm gonna give my background quickly and text color. Padding will be 3 and rounded will be empty. In the example, as you can see, its width is 50% of the screen. So let's say width 1.5. Okay, let's see. We don't have any size yet. Let's give, I will say 100, 100. Okay. Firstly, I'm gonna give a height and I'm gonna calculate those items. You already know how to do that. I will say flex column, text will be red. You can use flex1 or h1.5. In this case, it's gonna be the same. Let's give a padding here. I will also give it here. And additionally, I'm gonna give here a background color. Our purple color here. Let's see. Let's center those items. Flex column, and justify center. And for this single item, again, flex align item center, and justify content space between. And for each item, I'm gonna give margin bottom. Let's see our example. As you can see, there is a margin between items. And one more thing I'm gonna do, if I add here more than 3 items, it's gonna overflow. To prevent this, I'm gonna be using overflow scroll. Okay, what about this h1 tag? Again, uppercase, text X large, font will be bold. Let's make this bold also. And I'm gonna add here cursor pointer. Font bold and cursor pointer. By the way, overflow scroll should be in the parent, of course. Let's duplicate this item. Okay. They are here. For this part, let's give flexbox for this container and separate those items. Flex, justify between. And I will give gap between each item for this container. I will say flex column, gap will be 4. And I will say justify center. Like that. Let's create other items. I will copy and paste. Service cost 0. And delivery cost is gonna be free. I can give here different color. It's gonna be green, and let's say 700. Okay, it's too dark. Let's say 5. Okay, perfect. And after this HR, I'm gonna add one more item. Total number. By the way, there is a mistake here. It's gonna be dollar. Like that. And instead of this color, I'm just gonna say font bold. Let's see. Okay, I can increase this margin from top and bottom. I will come here and say margin Y. On the Y axis, it's gonna be 2. Like that. It's bigger right now. And I can align this button to the right side. We are using Flexbox, so I can say align self and end. It means align self, flex, end. And when it comes to medium screen, actually it can stay like that. But if it's the large screen, it can be horizontal. Flex, row. So what I'm gonna do is give a height for these items, and it's gonna be 100%. But when it comes to width, it's gonna be twice bigger than this item. So I will say if it's large, height will be full 100%, and width will be 2 out of 3. I will do the same thing for other section, payment container, but it's gonna be 1. It's gonna be smaller, like that. But if it's 2x large, as I showed you here, as you can see, they are exactly the same. So I will say 2x large is gonna be half. And I will copy this and paste here. But padding is too small. As you can see, we are giving exactly the same padding. So I will say, if it's LG, it's gonna be 20. If it's X large, it's gonna be 40. Let's do the same thing for this container. Okay, much better. Let's see. Maybe I can increase those numbers. Let's close. As you can see, it's too small, and I can increase the gap between them. So I will say if it's 2x large, firstly I'm gonna increase the text, x large, and I'm gonna increase the gap between them. Okay, let's check again. X large, large, medium, and small. Okay, so what about this login page? Okay, we have a user here, but if I check the login page, as you can see, we have a box here, and it includes 2 sections, this image, those items. Let's create. I will say box. Inside this box, image container, and a form container. Let's give here relative. And I'm gonna call here Next.js image. I will say source and alt. I will say login background.png, and it's gonna be fill. And inside this container, we will have this title, let's say h1 tag, a p tag, and we will have 2 buttons, Google button and a Facebook. Let's create the first one, then we can duplicate sign in with Google. And actually we have an image here. Let's remove this and create an image first. And after I will create a span and it's gonna be this text. Source will be Google PNG. Let's give a size. It's gonna be 20 and height 20 and class name will be object contain. And it's gonna be a flexbox. I'm gonna give gap between this icon and the text. I'm gonna give a padding. Let's give a box shadow. It's gonna be orange color and rounded. Let's create one more. I'm just gonna change this text, Facebook, this icon, and this color. It's gonna be blue. When we give other styles, it's gonna look better, but for now it can stay like that. So let's create other items. Actually, we have only one item here. Let's copy this. After this button, I will say p tag, and it's gonna be a link. We don't have any contact page, it can stay like that. By the way, let's remove this. And that's all. Let's give our style. Let's open up console. And as you can see, again, it's 100 VH, but we are calculating here. And this size is smaller than this size. So here is going to be 1 unit and here is going to be 2 units. Let's first give our padding quickly. Class name, padding will be 4. Our height, flexbox, align item center, justify content center. Remember, it's our container, it's not the box. And for this box, height will be full, because for the mobile screen, it's gonna fit inside our container. And as you can see, there is a box shadow here, but it's not like a ring. So we can use directly shadow and 2x large. There is a shadow. We can give border radius, rounded MD. It's gonna be flexbox, flex column, and if it's MD, flex will be row. So let's come here and give our height. Remember, it's gonna be 1 unit and we will be full. Let's see. Okay. Let's add here object cover. Perfect. And what about this container? As you can see, there is no padding. Let's add. Padding will be 10. Again, flex column. Gap between items will be 8. Like that. For this H1 title, here, font will be bold. Text will be X large. Okay. And this text will be smaller. And I'm gonna add here text decoration and it's gonna be underlined. Let's come here and say class name, text small. For this one, just underline. Like this. And if it's MD, I'm gonna decrease this box size. It was 100% here. So I will say MD, H will be, let's give custom size, and it's gonna be 70%. And width will be full. And let's make this image full also. This image container, height will be full. And width will be the half of the screen. And the other half will be exactly the same. Let's copy this. And where is our form? Here. Like that. And if it's even bigger, as you can see, it's too long. It doesn't look good. So I will say if it's LG, width will be 60%. And if it's even bigger, It's going to be 50%. 1.5. Like that. And if it's X large, I can increase this text. Text will be 3x large. Okay, perfect. And finally, our order page. Let's say orders. And let's open up here. As you can see, we have a table. And when I shrink here, we just remove some of these items. We just need date, price, and status. And if it's big, we are going to add here its order ID and these products. By the way, there is something wrong here. Status should be here and here should be products. Let's do that. Let's close them and open up orders. I'm going to add here my paddings. P4 if it's LG, 20, and if it's X large, it's going to be 40. And inside I will create my table. And we are going to have table head and table body. And inside head, let's create our titles. TR. And the first item will be order ID, date, price, products, and status. So let's create our first item. Again, TR, which means a row, table row. And the first item will be, let's give any number here. It's going to be the ID. And the second one, date, price, those items, products, and status. Okay. Let's see. Perfect. So I'm gonna make this with 100%. Let's come here. For the table, I'll say with full. Okay, it's full screen right now. And those items should be on the left side. Let's come here and say class name, text left. Like that. And if it's the mobile screen, we don't need this order ID or products. Let's remove them. At the beginning, it's going to be hidden. And if it's empty, it's going to be block. So I will do the same thing for products. And here, and those products. And I can decrease font size. Text will be small. And if it's empty, text will be base. So let's give padding inside this row. From top and bottom is going to be bigger. So let's say padding Y, padding X, and I will do the same thing for other items. Let's give class name. And I'm going to paste them here. Okay. Let's see our example. As you can see, there are different colors. For even items, we are going to be using this gray color. Remember how we are doing this? I will come here and say, if it's even, let's check. Sorry, for odd numbers, BG will be gray 100. Of course, we don't have other items yet. Let's create. I will create one more, and after completing this style, we can add more. As you can see, this is gray. But in our example, since this order is not completed yet, its color is red. So the first item will be red color. Let's say just 50. And the others will be white or gray. Let's actually add one more and you can see better. Like this. And one more thing in our example, as you can see, our items are separated. Let's do that. I'm gonna come here, border separate, and border spacing will be 3. And that's all, I think. Let's check. Home page. Menu. List page. By the way, there is something wrong with this footer. Let's open up. As you can see, I directly say P here, but it's gonna be PX. Okay. And single item. We can choose any option and quantity. Cart page, login page, and orders page. Let's check the responsive design. Perfect. Menu. Awesome. List. When I hover over, I can see the price. If I make this bigger, it's gonna show more items. Home page. We have a slide here. And cart page. Perfect. So that's all, guys. Remember, in the next tutorial, we are gonna create a database, we are gonna create our own API, and also we are gonna create some users, admins, and clients. Clients will be able to buy any item, and admins can add any item. Just let me know in the comments which backend technology you want to see. It can be any database, it can be any uploading image service. So I'm gonna check your comments and decide which database I'm gonna use. So that's all. I hope you liked it. If you learned something new today, please like the video. You can use the link in the description below, or you can join the channel. Don't forget to follow Lama Dev's social media accounts, especially on Instagram. I started sharing daily programming tips and funny memes. And thanks for watching. I hope I'll see you in the next tutorial. Goodbye.